to a brand new Five Heart Podcast live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. My name is Greg Mahochko. I'm your host. Joining me, as always, he is our founder. He is our fearless leader. He's the guy who brought us all together, makes us all better each and every day. John Dam Johnston. Hello, sir.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm
God!
better for knowing you. I'm better for knowing you, John.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's nice of you to say. Elon Musk is destroying Twitter as we sit here talking.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to react to that. I am on Twitter for the extent of a Nebraska football game, where I am live tweeting reactions, or sometimes tape delayed tweeting if I have to DVR the game, and that's about it. Like I don't.
I've enjoyed. I can't think of another platform where I can write like one sentence and insult the states of Iowa and Minnesota and like Wisconsin all at the same time. And that's, if it actually dies, that's what I will miss, is how am I going to be able to do that? I mean, you put it on a website, and first of all, you're not sure if those people read it. And secondly, you don't get the instant feedback of except that this year, Wisconsin and Iowa and Minnesota have all been about as pathetic as we are at football. And it's not, they're not, what do they call that? Tap back? What do they shout back? Whatever. I don't know.
Oh,
They're not responding. Clap back. There you go. The Iowa fans normally would get after me so much for, bagging on them. And they don't at all now because they're all, they're dealing with their own problems there.
Well, I don't know if it's PC to say anymore, but there's It's a quote from a movie, so I can't cite my source, but no ball pussy losers.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Owen Walker is here. Good evening, gentlemen, and it's fairly quiet so far. Thank you,
Good
Owen.
evening to you, Owen, and thank you for joining us. We know that you could be watching a lot of garbage TV tonight. And we thank you for choosing us.
I made a negative tweet about Elon Musk earlier, and the Elon Musk fanboys are kind of beating me up on Twitter a little bit.
Did you ask them?
Let's go on to something else. Let's move on to something.
I mean, if we want to talk about something that's equally depressing but at least close to our hearts, we could talk about Nebraska football.
Well, the good news is that the next two games, if we have Casey Thompson in the lineup, I think the next two games are very winnable.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I think it's something we're going to get to a little bit later in the show. But we're sitting right now 3-7. 5-7 teams have made bowl games since they started throwing, a bunch of bowl games at us starting in the second week of December. So I say all that to say, we beat Wisconsin, we beat Iowa. We're going bowling.
It'd be nice. I mean, it'd be, the whole Wisconsin thing, I mean, we haven't beat them in 10 years. And that just sounds ridiculous. So, if anything else, I realize this is kind of a throwaway year. But, we could still get some good out of it. I mean, we could break some streaks like the Iowa and Wisconsin losing streaks and at least have something to feel good about going into the off season and waiting to see what happens with our new coach and who he is and who we can complain about.
That's what it'll be. It will be almost instantaneous finding out who he is and then bitching about him. Max Godfrey joining us on YouTube says Casey will be starting. MJ said it today. We'll take that.
You know what'd be even better than Casey starting? Casey finishing.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right to it because Simple Jack says, love the shirt, John. But Simple Jack, we've got some news for you. John, are you ready?
Yeah, it's a jacket. It's actually a jacket.
But
remember this? Remember we still did Who Needs Luck? Well, Nebraska did. But It's not just a jacket.
It's not just a jacket, folks.
It's leggings. You can be hideous all over.
Tell them where will they be able to find some of that sweet Coronation merch.
Well, here's the thing. These aren't in the store yet because I wanted to buy them, and I wanted to see if they fit well and they felt good. And they, I'm not going to sell something I wouldn't wear myself, at least from a fit and how it feels. I don't want to sell junk. So these aren't in the store yet, but at cobbycorn.com, that's where everything's going to go. You know what? I'll put them up in the store soon, and we'll see if people are crazy enough to wear these things, because this is comfortable, and I like the I mean, let's face it, I mostly work at home, I live at home, and this is the kind of clothes I wear all the time now.
So I gotta say, I love the I'm wearing right now. It's an official 3-stripe life, or whatever you want to call it, and this was hand delivered. Jeez, Highlander bringing the heat. Lord yourself, come on now. This hoodie was hand delivered to the Nebraska-Illinois game in the it was the 2015 season. My wife was pregnant with our oldest at the time, and this was hand delivered by none other than Mr. Brett Baker. And I mean, I paid for it, but so this was always going to be special. But I do like the zip down hoodies.
Yeah, I think they're more comfortable. Okay,
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm still getting beat up by the Elon Musk people.
The
people that are upset that I tweeted something political, and I didn't think it was political at all. I just said Elon Musk. If he kills Twitter, we should just lock him out of other platforms. I'll just stop.
Can I share some? How would you describe this Nebraska football season, John, as a dumpster fire?
I don't want to, but I would. I mean, we're not good at football. We're bad at football.
Would you describe it maybe a little more? Not to say there aren't dumpsters in Nebraska, but there are a lot of tractors as well. Would you say it's perhaps a tractor fire, John?
I have never seen a tractor on fire.
Okay. I
have seen many things on fire, Greg. And I have set many things on fire, but not a tractor.
The only reason I ask that, it's a specific line of questioning. I'm holding in my hand. This was actually something that I think I've talked before. I don't know if you all have Total Wine stores where you are.
Yes.
Okay. So I've been to the Total Wine, my local Total Wine, a few times, and I like to build your own 6-pack. And this past Sunday, I took my son, my oldest, with me, and he just helped me pick out beers. He can't drink them, obviously, but he's just like, "Oh, what do you think about this one, Dad?" Basically, he's picking things based on label. I'm picking things based on what I actually like. And I didn't read the fine print until now, so I'm scared. But I have this Tractor Fire Brown Ale.
Okay.
Now, it's not just a brown ale. It is a smoky chipotle pepper brown ale.
Okay.
I love a brown ale. I'm a little hesitant on the smoky chipotle pepper portion. But I'm going to crack this open and enjoy it, hopefully enjoy it throughout the course of this show. If you see me take one drink and then I don't drink much more, it's because the smoky chipotle pepper part of the brown ale is not for me. If you are in the comments right now, where are you at on beers that bring a little heat? Because I've tried another one. It was not for me. So I'm curious, if you're a beer drinker, do you like beers that have a peppery, way too white for peppers in your beers? Okay, thanks, Josh.
I used to every once in a while like a hot beer, a spicy beer, but not very often.
Would that be like, I know a red beer, but would that be like a red beer with Tabasco sauce or?
That was how I did them. But no, I think that there was one. I mean, you got all those craft beers where they're trying everything. I think it was I don't remember. All my I realized that I started doing crossword puzzles on an app, and I realized that I have lost a lot of my knowledge of alcohol now that I don't drink anymore. So they ask names of like vodka brands. I'm like, I don't know what that is. What the hell?
Uh,
Kharkov. That's the best name in vodka. That's what I remember.
Burr Oak Brewing Company, LLC, Columbia, Missouri. So if I die, it's because a Mizzou fan tried to kill me with beer. Um, I had hams in when I was up in Minnesota, actually. Jacob Beer Bomb also has some hams. Um, so anyway, not bad. The brown ale comes through more than the smoked chipotle pepper. So I'll be finishing this beer throughout the course of the show, John.
Oh, Josh Hansen makes a good point. Kincaid or Devil's Gap is amazing jalapeno beer, good to drink, even better to cook with. That is a good point about a spicy beer, is that you can use it in stuff where you would use a regular beer, or you know what I mean. When a recipe calls for beer, you don't want to just pour Bush Light into it or something. It's like, what the hell? Why not just use water? But if you can use like a craft beer that has specific taste into it, I think you can thicken up your. I don't know. Some people do that with chili, don't they? I
I'll
don't
pour
do
beer
any of
into a
this
chili.
anymore. Yeah.
I'm not gonna read that one, John. Um, so no, last Saturday, Nebraska went to the Big House. Um, ended up on the downside of a 34 to 3 decision. I'll say this: I kind of expected it to be worse than it was.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think that's because I don't. Michigan played the style of game that Michigan's been kind of playing all season, which is they just shorten the game. You know, they had long possessions that turned into points, um, and Nebraska couldn't really do anything to stop them. They couldn't necessarily get off the field on third down. I know you and Todd talked about is there anything that Nebraska did better than Michigan, and punting.
Yeah. I didn't. Was that it? See, it's already Thursday, and that game is already just. With my crappy memory, it's already. I know that it was a boring, horrible game. But the one thing that I think Michigan did not do that they've done in a lot of their games this season was have really big plays, particularly with their running backs. And they didn't really, we didn't give up any big pass plays, and we didn't give any big run plays. And I know that that's a little bit tiny thing to hang your hat on, but it was, it was good.
Well, I think
It. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think Jacob brings up a good point. He says we knew we weren't going to win. Our defense did their best to give us hope, and you're right. To that point, I think the Husker defense did a great job, like you said, John, of taking away the big plays. There weren't any home runs. The Michigan, again, to their credit, because our defense, I mean, they didn't allow the big plays, but they also couldn't get off the field. So Michigan took what we gave them, and that was nickel and diming us down the field and chewing up clock as they went.
Yeah, and they were just. I think everybody knew this going in. They were just too good a team to not do that. And I don't know. Unless we were going to manufacture a lot of points or at least make first downs, and we didn't really do any of that.
And it was tough. And we talked kind of at the outset, and folks, just so I'm pinning messages and comments left and right here, so we will go back and revisit some of your comments and questions, etc. But no Casey Thompson, and then Chubba Purdy got hurt in what was I think it was supposed to be a QB slide, but it was a QB moving kneel that I don't know messed up his shin or ankle or something on it or knee, and then you had Logan Smothers. I mean, you're not going to go in against the number 3, number 4, whatever at the time team in the nation with your third string quarterback and expect pull out a W. It's just that Michigan is too solid, front to back in all. I don't disagree, Phil. Chuba did, Chuba was running, and I don't know if we necessarily expected that. I mean, he was more successful on either design QB runs or on scrambles. I don't know if I don't know if that was a byproduct of him maybe not trusting his arm. John.
I think he was just starting to figure out what he could and couldn't do, and then he gets injured. And you're like, he looked like me trying to slide. That's what he looked like. The snow is hitting Minnesota. The trails that we usually walk our dog in and walk for exercise are covered in ice, and he looked like me trying to walk down those trails today, and that's what it looked like.
I'm jumping out of the conversation here briefly. One of the previous commenters asked if Nebraska was ready to name you as head coach yet, and Brian comes in with some just downright fact. Not sure the world is ready to see John patrolling the sidelines in that outfit as our coach. You're 100% right. That would be instant intimidation to the other team.
It would. They'd go blind.
They would be thrown off of their game plan right away. Realistic, what you should do is get a few of those outfits boxed up and delivered to one memorial.
I don't want to make our coach. Here's your new coach. Now he's blind. There you go.
No.
Fucked up Nebraska football program forever.
I mean, could we do?
We'll ease it out there. We'll ease it. Yeah, we've said that, Greg. We have said that. Could it be worse? And then it has been. So
then it gets worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time we say that, it just it's poopier than it was before.
Some of the we announced, or I guess it was announced earlier today by Mickey Joseph that Casey Thompson will be back. Bob asks, how effective can Thompson be after missing so much time? I mean, that one will play itself. I don't look, not to harp on the backups, but I mean, you can't be worse. He's got a bigger arm, and there's it's that could be Nebraska ball. Come on, Phil. We're doing one tragedy at a time. But Casey Thompson for sure has a built-in kind of established rhythm with guys like Trey Palmer. You talk about Marcus Washington as well. I don't know if you know this. They were roommates at Texas. Man, that's got to count for something. We always heard about that in the Tommy Armstrong, Jordan Westerkamp days. So I think a Casey Thompson led offense is going to give you the best shot to win.
I think you can get him out there, and you get Thompson early in the game throwing those sideline passes. You got wide bubble screens or wide receiver screens, and those are constraint plays, right? Those are deep plays that you use. Not always successful. We always go, they only gain 3 yards. Well, what they're successful at is making sure the defense isn't bunching up in the middle. So I think that's the one thing immediately that Thompson can do for this offense that we didn't see. I mean, I don't mean to be a jerk about this, but you saw Chubby Purdy. Oh my God, Chubba Purdy try to throw those passes, and they were just too slow. If you're going to throw those, they have to go boom. You know what I mean? And they have to get out there, and the guy they have to be in the right place, so the guy doesn't have to lose his momentum. And we've seen those go for some yards with, Trey Palmer, Lante Brown, or Marcus Washington, and I think immediately that's what I would start to do against Wisconsin, probably at the beginning of the game.
And how many times,
pull their linebackers so they have to react to the outside, and then give a few runs up the middle, and we'll see what happens with the interior line against Wisconsin's defense.
And another name that you I'm not gonna say you missed, but you did mention is Travis Volek. How many times was he missed this past week against Michigan, and that's a guy who, I mean, I'm surprised he only has 2 receiving touchdowns touchdowns in his Nebraska career. The first one coming in his old school Rutgers just a few weeks back, and it's for a guy who's as active in the pass game as he isn't, and does he have the ability to? He doesn't have the height that like Austin Allen had. I mean, Austin Allen had something you can't coach, and that's he was 6'9". You get the ball out there for Austin Allen, he's gonna catch it. And he was a good route runner. Vokalek, good route runner, and good hands when the ball's close. So that's another. But he was missed. There were a lot of passes that where he was. I don't even know if you can call it officially like targeted, but thrown in his general direction, but not close enough that he had a real good opportunity to get those passes. So. That's another one. I thought he and Thompson, throughout a limited amount of, actual plays together because Vokalek was hurt first and then Thompson, but they seem to have developed a little bit of rhythm as well.
We're gonna go this. Who is it? M. Friedrich 2012 says Wisconsin's QB Mertz is Nebraska's secret weapon, and you know what? I think that's a valid point. We're going to go, we're going to go out here and look up Graham Mertz. I think the thing that's interesting about when people look at Nebraska and they go, oh, God, we're terrible and we have these problems. Well, a lot of other teams have those problems too. I mean, Iowa's offensive problems have been well documented. But if we look at, Graham Mertz on the season, Graham Mertz has 18 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. I think that he can be pretty much a turnover machine sometimes. My God, it sounds like you're beating a dog.
You can hear
I do think that.
You can.
I do think that if. Yeah, I think that if Nebraska.
My microphone.
Really?
Yeah.
It sounded like you were, Maybe it doesn't go through to the crowd. I don't know. Huh. But yeah, Graham Mertz, I think, Wisconsin's offense has been all over the board this season. And I think that against our defense, again, if our offense can stay on the field a little longer, pick up some first downs, and I just thought go 3 and out in 45 seconds like they did over and over against Michigan. We have a shot in this game.
And that's what.
And it's at home.
It's the last home game of the season before we go back on the road to crap-ass Iowa. But really, I mean, Nebraska's inability to, stay on the field offensively, that was half the story. The other half being the defense unable to close out a Michigan possession. But you're right, you can't have 3 plays in 40 seconds and expect it that don't go anywhere. It's not like you're, 3 plays, but that last one's a 65-yard run or a touchdown run or pass. You can't hold on to the ball that minimum amount of time and expect to be successful. It's not going to happen. Michigan was just a bad. It was a tough beat, a bad matchup this late in the season, when we're down as much as we are.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with Phil Spear here when he says that Travis Vokalek is underused.
Well, somebody has to be able to get him the ball, and without Casey Thompson in there, nobody's been able to do anything.
And Vince Watson back-checked me and said that Vokalek 6'7".
Yeah.
When I said Austin Allen was 6'9", I didn't realize that Vokalek was that tall. So
I think that he's a senior, isn't he? Travis Vokalek.
You would ask.
He is a guy that I would think that he is one of those guys that you'd think would make an NFL roster because I think he's talented enough. But the problem is going to be is he's shown enough stuff to get on one. Maybe an undrafted free agent that gets out there. Yes, he is a senior. I was right. How about that?
Which brings up a question that I had. What's the status on Thomas Fedone? Is he just hanging
Nobody's
out,
heard from
waiting
him.
his... Hmm?
Nobody. He's on a milk carton. I mean, he's still on the roster as far as I know, but I mean, he's just basically disappeared completely.
Is that...
Um,
Is he still rehabbing from that injury?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Phil,
we'll see
again,
if he ever sees the field,
and again, with the coaching change, I mean, you would think that any coach coming in would find a spot for, like one of the top tight ends, tight end recruits in the country at that time. So, Phil and I are thinking a lot alike tonight because he's big on Travis Vokalek, as am I. Um, Agreeing that yes, that he was underutilized even before Casey Thompson. Last year, you did have Austin Allen, and Vokalek was a nice compliment, I think. But I always thought that Austin Allen was going to get more attention from the quarterbacks, and yeah, a super senior point now. So good. Joel's positive about Casey Thompson. Did I click there out? Nope, I didn't. Son of a gun. He's positive about Casey's abilities this weekend against Wisconsin. Which do we have anything else really to talk about as far as sadness in Ann Arbor?
No, that's where you need to move on. I mean, it was just such a boring game. I mean, it really was. Nothing really horrible happened. Nothing really excitable happened. So it was just, it was terrible.
Let's hope that M. Friedrich is correct with Casey's running ability, opening up tailback run efficiency, efficacy, and forcing the secondary to come down, which could open up Palmer, Vokalek, and Washington. And also, not just Casey's running ability, but Anthony Grant as well. I mean, I feel like he's been hampered probably the same reason that Casey Thompson's been destroyed, and that's because we have a Swiss cheese offensive line. And I'm allowed to say that.
Now, what?
Phil's on board. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going through stats here. Total defense, I mean, Michigan is top team in the nation at total defense at 232.8 yards per game. Illinois is second. Iowa is third. Minnesota is eighth. And Wisconsin is 14th at giving up 307.8 yards a game. These sound like a lot of yardage for top teams even. I mean, unless you're Michigan or Illinois or Iowa. So, with Wisconsin and Iowa, we're still playing against two top 20 defenses. But I think the thing is with Casey Thompson in there and Trey Palmer, I just think that that's a combination that they really haven't seen this year. So, again, it's going to be key that we can get them into situations where they can be successful. I guess that's what I want to say there.
And I think in regards to that Thompson to Palmer connect is that it can honestly happen anytime. It can happen any point on the field. And we've seen Palmer, has a nice double move that usually gets him into some open space. And Casey's, I've been, I admit, I'm doing the live reactions on Twitter, the Number 5 Heart podcast. I have been overusing the phrase "biscuit in a basket," and I will. That's fine. I love that phrase, but that is it's the magic touch, I guess. Casey has, he puts just the right amount of oomph on the ball. That's not the technical term, but knows right where Trey's going to be. And then, Trey's just got legs. I mean, he's got wheels for legs. And that's just, I think that's what makes that ping so special. Because it could be a 20-yard, on a slant route, but we've seen the big plays from those two. And just having that option back, I think, is going to force defenses to have to adjust.
And I think the other thing is if Thompson goes out of this game where we don't have Chuba Purdy and we go to Logan Smothers, and then after that, the news this week is that we will see Jarrett Sinek, who is a walk-on quarterback from Hastings. But I guess I look at that and
Heinrich Harburg.
I don't know what happened to him. That's what I keep thinking. This guy was 6'5", 225, and what happened to Heinrich Harburg? What happened to Matt Masker? We need these alliterative names as quarterback. So Jarrett Sinek, 200-pound quarterback, 6'0", redshirt freshman from Hastings. Yeah, I was right. How about that? I was right twice. My God. But the news is we might see him in a quarterback, and I guess that'll be interesting.
I just,
maybe we'll be ahead enough that he'll get in the game in the fourth quarter. We'll be winning by 30, and they'll just go, "Hey, we need to get this guy on the field."
Let's save up. Let's save Casey Thompson for Iowa. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is that alliteration works very well for good guys. Peter Parker, Clark Kent, Heinrich Harburg, Matt Masker.
Right. Yeah.
Come on, Husker coaching staff. What are you doing? You're dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Simple Jack with some good words here. Nebraska will finally beat Wisconsin with Casey back. It would be awesome if they finished the season with 2 wins. Buddy, preaching to the choir. Phil says that if Casey can stay upright, they can win the next 2. A lot of that is unfortunately not up to Casey. And we saw that O-line breakdown with Chuba and Logan in the backfield, didn't we?
Yeah, well, it was against Michigan's front, so and again, anytime you run a stunt or a twist against our offensive linemen, they have absolutely no idea what to do with it. So, especially in pass protection, that's not going to change until we get a new coaching staff.
John, I want to talk a little bit about the state of the program.
Oh my God, the state of the program!
You raised an interesting question.
You look so serious.
Thank you. That's no. You raised an interesting question on some of that short form media. I believe I saw the version on Instagram, and you were saying, "Is the Nebraska fan base held hostage?"
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's the best / worst version of Stockholm syndrome you'll ever find, and I think the second part of your question was how long, like when did it actually begin? I would say that's a good question. When did we actually start to feel like, is 2012 too soon?
2012 too soon for what?
To feel like we were being held hostage?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You just let the past go. We let it go. Let it. Oh my God, I'm not going to do that.
Do it, John.
No.
We can't get kicked off YouTube if you sing it. We'll get kicked off if we play it, but not if you sing it.
Nobody wants that. No,
Let
I
it
just,
go.
we just don't do it. We're just talking about each day as it goes by. I keep thinking Twitter is going to die, and where else will I go for social media stuff? Because I have enjoyed Twitter, and I keep thinking I should get better at Instagram, but I'm really crappy at it because you have to do everything on your phone, and I am not really that great with a phone because you have to kind of edit and. Okay, honestly, one of the things when I was going through my recovery for the brain injury, one of the things I did was a neuropsych evaluation, and what that is a whole shitload. It's like hours of cognitive tests, verbal memory, written memory, recognizing shapes, verbal stuff. I said that already. But the other thing is motor control, and one of the tests showed that I lost a lot of fine motor control when I died. So the whole, trying to click on this thing that's just easy for other people is just, it's shit for me. And I would really like to get better at, I don't know, maybe try TikTok or Instagram Reels, but it's kind of brutal. Our YouTube Shorts, I try those, and I don't know. I would love to find a different way to do this without doing it on a phone. Maybe I'll get an iPad with big buttons. Remember years ago when we had landlines and you go over to your grandma's house and she'd have the buttons on the phone about that wide, and she'd have a phone that was this big and she'd dial like this.
Hey, John. I have a question. I think we got off a little bit.
We did, yeah. Let's go on.
As a fan base, we're held hostage, right?
Yes.
Why do you say that 2012 is too early?
Because we didn't realize that back in 2012, and we had some good times. And in the previous 4 years, we have convinced ourselves that good times were coming, and I think we could still do that again. But 2012 brings in too much there, and then you'd say Nebraska held hostage day 8,029, and people just go, "Oh God, don't do this." Whereas if we would say something like Nebraska held hostage day 30, and we would just pick a date, then it'd be okay because it seemed like it'd be over sooner. But if you say Nebraska held hostage 8,030, day 8,039, it's like the end is never going to come. In the end, we're going to get a new coach, and hope will be renewed, like that one Star Wars movie.
The Last Jedi?
No, not that one. That had nothing in it. No.
I know what you're trying to say, and I was just trying to be funny. That's the first one I went. I think 2012, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, we're still winning games, but the games we were losing, we were getting dismantled, and we still had Bo Pelini as head coach. I feel like we were held hostage because we were winning, so we felt okay with the fact that we were in an abusive relationship.
Oh my God, you thought about this, didn't you?
John, yeah. You posed a question. What am I supposed to do? Just wing it?
I did. I just didn't expect this for an answer.
It's like, thank God that I've not been in an abusive relationship, and I can say that my wife hasn't either. But, there's the stereotypical, oh no, I know he loves me. Meanwhile, Melvin Gordon's running for 400 yards. There was glimmers of hope that, the off the field or sideline issues would resolve themselves, and we would still be able to win 9 or 10 games a season. Now it's just, you said it best a year ago, right? There is no hope.
There are times I regret that a lot, but but there are shirts available.
Cobby corn?
Yeah. We're going to get a new coach, and everybody's going to complain about it, and this will be a hard off season, but we'll just see what tomorrow brings.
Do you ever feel like the last few years we've been James Conn in misery?
No, I never felt like that.
I feel like we have, and because we're trapped, because Husker football is like, what are we gonna do? Pick another team? Like that's not.
I think we need to stop here. I think we need to stop for a minute.
You put a question, John.
Yes, I did. But you're going into abusive relationships. And what I'm going to point out is this, is I want you guys on the comments can make comments about this. Greg is going into the area where we're in an abusive relationship with Nebraska football. I consider the abusive relationship part of this with the last coach that we got rid of. Because I think that relationship was abusive. I don't think our relationship with Husker football is necessarily abusive. Because we still get joy out of it sometimes. We just haven't gotten very much joy out of it for a while. And the thing about abusive relationships, Greg, is you don't really realize you're in an abusive relationship until you get out of it, and then you look back and go, "Oh my God, what was I thinking? What was I doing?" And that's why I look at it and say, "Was our abusive You really need to pick this. Was our abusive relationship with Husker football, or was it with that guy we fired?" I don't really even feel like saying his name anymore. I really don't. Fuck that guy.
I know you don't. Portal of Wisdom, good to see them back. They're a regular viewer. It's hard to believe, 20-something short years ago, there was like Friends and Seinfeld and Mad About You or whatever was on NBC's must-see TV lineup on Thursday nights, and now it's us. But Portal of Wisdom says that extra second put back on the board against Texas in Big 12 championship in 2012 killed things. Where would we be if that didn't happen? Sue threw McCoy all over that field. That's a very good question.
Yeah, we would be in the same place. Except that we wouldn't say, it was 2009, but we would still be in the same place because we have made the same decisions. We would have done the same things going forward. Bo Pelini still would have been fired when he was fired by an idiot athletic director. And Bo Pelini wouldn't have changed his defense because he said he never needed to change his defense. And he would have continued to get. There literally probably would be no change other than we would have a Big 12 championship. And instead of saying we haven't won a championship for 20-some years, we would just say, well, they haven't won a championship for a decade. But I don't really think anything would have changed. Some people bring up, well, what if that former coach guy that whose name I don't want to say would have been able to play that first game against Akron? Would have made a fucking bit of difference because the coach was still a person who just didn't even do his job. Okay? So
I think Phil is in.
None of this would change.
I think Phil Spears is in John's camp on this one. He says, yeah, if Trev hadn't fired him after Georgia Southern, Phil was done watching. And so you were in an abusive relationship or held hostage by the previous coach. I still say in a more macro level, because again, we're not going to, you can't jump on a bandwagon. You can't be like, well, I'm going to go root for Alabama, even though we got more teeth than they do, or Georgia, or obviously not going to root for Texas or USC. Phil, stop it. That is not even funny. How dare you? For those of you who are just listening, Phil says, hell, Akron might have won. Stop it.
Right, that is true.
But I still think on the bigger scope that we're still holding out hope. Things will get. And I do believe. I joke about what you said a year and change ago about there being no hope. I do believe hope and better things are on the horizon. In my core, where is it? Where's the damn list? It's somewhere around here. I have my 12-0 preseason prediction with a heavy dose of Kool-Aid. I get it. But at the end of the day, it was, filled with hope. If things had gone the way they could have gone, we'd be looking at he who apparently will not be named would still be our head coach. We could be sitting at a lofty 8-2. Anything's possible. It's just that, man, when it went downhill fast. And it said then.
Most Ponzi schemes, when they fall apart, they come apart all at once.
Well done, John.
Well, that's honestly, that's really what it was. It was a giant fucking con job Ponzi scheme. That's all it was. And when it came apart, you remember the podcast like at the beginning of the season when I said when this turns, it'll all turn at once. The fan base would when they turn against Scott Frost. Oh my God, I said his name. We will all turn together at one time, and that's exactly what happened on the night of the Georgia Southern game.
Yeah,
So
there was no coming back after that. And I'm not. All I'm saying is that in a parallel universe somewhere, if you believe in such things, there's a I'll say it. You're not gonna like it. I'm gonna say his name. There's a Scott Frost led Nebraska program in some parallel universe that has been to the college football playoffs. You gotta
it's
think
not ours.
It's not ours. um,
You realize, Greg, that the choice here is not. I'm not going to be a Nebraska fan. I'm going to go be an Alabama fan. The choice is also I'm not going to do this anymore, and then you just go do something else. I spent today at a customer site, and I spent a good part of the day working with a man who hasn't had internet or cable for 15 years.
wow.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, what the hell is that like, sir?" And he said,
How happy?
it's good." He seemed like a pretty happy guy. He said the only frustrating part is online banking, and he said, "Here, I use my phone for all of that. Yeah, otherwise I don't have internet, I don't have streaming, I don't have cable TV." And I said, "What the hell do you do?" And he does woodworking in his spare time. And then he started showing me photos of all his woodworking projects, and I thought that's really healthy. It is. It's not me, but
We've
it's
got
healthy.
we've got a comment up here that people watch been able to read now, and for those of you just listening, I'll read it to you. Portal of Wisdom says, "Really wanted to believe he who shall not be named had matured since we were in high school in neighboring towns, but I guess some things never change. Curious if any team will take a chance on him now." And that was something you and Todd discussed this past
Yeah.
Monday about. Yeah, I mean, he needs to take a little time off, probably. I don't think he needs to rush back into a job, but uh, that he could be a coordinator or assistant somewhere, or a head coach in when there's less time.
Well, Todd was very diplomatic in answering that question. I probably wouldn't have been that diplomatic at all, which is why I let Todd answer that question.
I Phil Spear,
I,
you asked a good one here, but I think we're going to try to move forward a little bit away from he who shall not be named. Um, and Owen, well, let's highlight your question here. The beginning of the end, so to speak. Owen says, "Can we all agree that the 2001 Colorado game was the start of the decline of Husker football? Is seeing that game beat the winning ways out of our program?"
I think that game was a sign that Tom Osborne was no longer our coach, and that listen, there are a lot of people that say Frank should have never been fired. Frank would have been fired sooner or later anyway. Just stupid firing him after 9-3 season. And the reason why he would have been fired is because he wasn't legendary. I think Frank was a good coach, but not good enough for Nebraska, honestly. Uh, Either when you look at Tom Osborne, the guy was one of the best coaches that ever coached the game of football. And if you say that, then you really can't just throw other people up in there with him. Like, Frank Solich could have, that was a sign that Frank Solich and his staff were declining, and they didn't have the same moxie, and they didn't have the same put together that Osborne's staff did, and whatever. But yeah, it is. If you want to pick a seminal moment of what started or was it what is indicative of the decline, that's it.
I'm glad we're bringing up Solich and Osborne because it's been much ballyhooed that this is the most important Nebraska head coaching hire potentially in history. I would actually argue that, and I would say, even though there wasn't a national search and it was a foregone conclusion, I would say that Tom Osborne's successor was the most important football hiring decision at Nebraska. And look, I love me some Fighting Franks, and he had a very long and good enough career at Ohio that I think they're naming the field after him or something like that. I mean, but was not fit to be the head coach at Nebraska.
Frank?
And Frank. And because of that, not to use the quote revolving doors, but there was a big drop off, and there's all we have really are hypotheticals and revisionist, etc. But I'd be curious to know what other coaches could have stepped in that spot with the talent that Nebraska had and maintain momentum rather than, over the course of 4 years, lose all that momentum and be out on your ass.
Oh, you mean in 2001?
I mean, no, just after Tom Osborne. If he hadn't named his heir as Frank Solich, who could have been Osborne's successor, and then, like I said, kept that momentum going?
It had to be Frank. It had to be Frank. These are journeys we have to take. Do you remember the series Avatar: The Airbender? This is gonna be a really okay. I probably shouldn't make that reference. Oh, fuck it. I'm gonna make it. Avatar: The Airbender has to be one of the best cartoon series, any series ever made. And in that series, the Fire Nation attacks the rest of the nations, and the son of the Lord of the Emperor of the Fire Nation gets cast out of his kingdom, loses his honor, and his father banishes him. And a lot of his journey is about going back to the Fire Nation and trying to rekindle and regain his honor. But then when he does that, he realizes that was nothing. That was something he never wanted in the first place. But he still had to make that journey throughout that story to discover that. Nebraska had to hire Frank Solich after Tom Osborne because he was the guy. There's just certain things we have to do as journeys in our lives and journeys in our lives together. Maybe this whole thing, like I said, when you go into an abusive relationship, you don't know really you're in one until you get out of it. And then you go, what the fuck was I doing? And then,
all right, so follow up then.
I'm really going off into the forest here, aren't I?
I have a follow-up question to your Avatar: The Last Airbender metaphor.
Yeah.
As far as Nebraska football, is it about the journey or is it about the destination? Because the destination would be the quote-unquote return to prominence to, dare I say, college football playoff. And that sure sounds a hell of a lot more enjoyable than the journey we've been on.
No, will we be more appreciative of wins? Will we be more appreciative of our future, if our future coach, if he starts winning games? Yeah. For a day.
You can't appreciate sunshine until you've had a little bit of clouds and rain. I get that. I have been, as I mentioned, been pinning a lot of questions. We're going to jump to the. I think as far as the state of the program, we discussed all the topics that I had kind of pinned. I think this is in chronological order to when they were typed. So we have some back-to-back ones from Russell Mavis. We'll hit this first one here. Regardless of the next head coach, do we at least get 6 wins?
There's 2 things I'll say about that. 2 things. Number one, I think that you look at this football team and look that they're kind of close to winning games, even though they're not very good at football and they're missing key components to their entire team, like offensive tackles that can actually play offensive tackle. So there's some hope in that. But I think a lot of that is going to be dependent upon who we hire and who stays. And can we get the offensive line together? Because I think that's really the biggest problem that we have is playing in a league where you have to have a really good offensive line if you're going to be able to win games whatsoever. I mean, the good thing is that, let's see, we're going to, Wisconsin's going to have a new coach. Oh, come on, who else fired their coach? Tom Allen at Indiana. There's a good chance he'll be fired at the end of the year.
I mean,
Pat Fitzgerald still has to.
Fitzgerald's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but he has to get his shit together. I am guessing that he has to find at least a new defensive coordinator. So there's going to be a lot of turnover and change in our division, and the divisions aren't going away next year. They're going away possibly the year after. So, it's 6 wins. Yeah, I think it's pretty doable. We do have some good players. I mean, we have some good skill players. And we have some, what is it? Hartzog in the defensive secondary.
Hartzog,
Hausman as a linebacker, a very young linebacker.
Freshman, true freshman, I believe.
Yeah, I think Luke Reimers should be back for another year. I think, there's some core players that you can build around and get things going. So, and then we have the nil and we have the portal. And God knows what we can pick up out of there, although he wouldn't count on any linemen. So... yeah. Okay.
Just time out on that. We'll get to that in a minute. I would like to answer the question. Yes, and I'll tell you why. 2 wins left. 2 games left this season. Both win. We win them. We're a 5-win team, and that's only 1 win. Away from 6. So I'm thinking that next year's coach will be a +3 win coach. I think no matter however we finish out this year, we'll be at least 3 wins better next year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I hope. Yeah, I mean somebody that actually pays attention.
I hope somebody writes that down.
The team.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope somebody write that down and come back a year from now and tell me how close I am to being right or wrong, because I'll forget by the time this podcast is, produced and edited, etc. So. All right, so that's one from Russell. Turns out that we both just favorited or started the same question, so we'll move on. This is what I want to talk on. That's why I kind of wanted you to hold off on the NIL, because Matt Hansen, one of 2 Hansens in our audience tonight, says, I don't think Nebraska is that desirable of a coaching destination because of fan expectations and no roster depth. Is it a hard sell for Trev? I'm going to go first on this one because I know you're going to take the NIL route and the facilities, etc. Look, if nothing else, you're going to get a big buyout, so why not spend a couple years in Lincoln and make $15 million extra while you're at it? If nothing else, it's a good financial decision, regardless of your on-the-field success. John?
Desirable of a coaching destination. I've been going through these coaching videos on YouTube. I did Chris Kleiman today. And I think really what I've concluded is we kind of sell this like that. Like, put it this way. When you write a book, you have to know who your audience is. All right? A lot of people, when they write books, they'll go, well, who wants to buy my book? Well, everybody will want to buy. That's fucking bullshit. It's just a lie. So I wrote a memoir about my death and recovery. You know who mostly buys it? Older women who read memoirs. And what is that about? That's about a fit. Who fits this product or who fits this place? So it's not, I don't think, about being a desirable job for everybody. It just has to be a desirable job for the one guy that we need to be here and be the best coach he can be. And be the guy that wants to win games for Nebraska. So is it a desirable overall coaching destination? We have money. We have a dedicated fan base. We have nil. The money for paying the coach. We also have nil. We are in the Big Ten West, which we can be competitive in. We're still one of the biggest brands in football. Do we need a lot of rebuild? Now, the downsides of that, all my coaching videos, I've been going through pros and cons. And you mentioned two of the cons right there. Fan expectations, which pretty much every program that anybody gives a shit about has those same expectations. And if you think we're insane at all, go visit Tennessee or visit Auburn or visit, one of the SEC schools that isn't named Vanderbilt. No roster depth. I think that's probably a big issue for a lot of them is they look at it and they go, oh my God, do I have to win right away? And I can't do that with this offensive line and this defensive line. So it's going to take me 2-3 years, and are people going to be angry? So that is a very good point. I think that is kind of a big that will be a hard sell to people who don't have the stomach for it. But coaches are by their nature are very competitive people. They also have very large egos, which protects them against being beat to death by a fan base like ours. So, again, it's not. Do we need to be attractive to every coach out there? No, we just need to have Matt Rule say, yeah, I'm going to go coach there. Or Lance Leipold go, yeah, I'm going to take this job. That's what we need. That guy, and then that guy calling guys and going, hey, you want to be my offensive coordinator? Where at? Nebraska. Fuck no! And then you call the next guy. Defensive coordinator, same thing. There you go.
John Johnston's Been Dead, Never Been to Europe, available on Amazon, as well as his newer book, Manage Your Damage, or My Damage. Which one is it?
Manage Your Damage.
Perfect.
I keep checking my Twitter account to see the Elon Musk people beat up. I'll shut it off.
Hey, who's here with you trying to have a conversation actively now? It's me.
You are, Greg, and so is
everybody. It's the GREG. My
is.
biggest regret, John, I'm going to carry this regret with me for a long time, probably till the next time I see it, is I saw you 6 weeks ago. I was already I owned the book. I did not bring the book with me. And as you can see, there's no autograph.
Yeah, that's true.
So I clearly failed as a fan of your work. Folks, if you haven't checked out John's books yet, please do. It's insightful. You learn a lot about John's prostate, which is really weird because he had a heart attack and a brain injury. But he just wanted to really brag on that pooper.
That's not how you sell a book.
No, but none of that's true. You do learn a lot about John and the process of his recovery in his own self-deprecating way. So I highly encourage. Been Dead, Never Been to Europe. I haven't read Manage Your Damage yet because he hasn't sent me a copy. Thanks a lot, John.
Well, it's for heart attack survivors.
I mean, that's fine.
It's a very specific book.
Well, Josh also says that older women buy your books because of your silver fox pictures on the back, riding your Civil War cavalry horse with your uniform open.
That's an interesting comment because I mentioned that I work with the guy that didn't have the internet. I used to work with a guy who wished that we still lived in the 1880s. He would always talk about, all we'd have to worry about is getting on our horses, and we'd all look at him like, oh my God, what the fuck are you talking about? We'd all die of dysentery and consumption, lead poisoning, things like that. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit about whomever that new coach is going to be. Brian says he's going to have to build his own depth just like everywhere else. I'm sure by now he says the luster's definitely off our program as a top destination, but it's still a good opportunity. And Brian, we don't disagree.
Yeah. I think, I think that there's a lot of, I was working today and I had a lot of security issues. And one of my clients is having problems with it. It's kind of like a crypto thing, but it's encryption on sensitive documents and things like that. And as I was sitting there trying to describe this to people, I thought, I'm too fucking old to do this anymore. We need somebody younger to explain take the time. And Don Dre says lady likes Don. Yes, they do. Of course they do. It's only one that really matters the most, though. Well, two, I have a daughter. But, or if you throw Esther in there, I guess the dog. But what was I saying? I kind of look out there and I thought about coaches in this regard, and I think a lot of coaches are probably looking at this and going, I don't want to deal with this nil shit, and I want to deal with all this different portal stuff, and I think I'll just coach at a program where I can, like Chris Kleiman. What I was thinking about is, that guy is in probably a very comfortable situation. He works for an athletic director he trusts. They're very loyal to each other. He doesn't have a huge amount of expectations on him because Kansas State also has a functional basketball program, but and they're one of the worst programs in history. So he may be a guy whose ego doesn't say, I need to go to the biggest program and win the biggest titles. I mean, where an Urban Meyer is, my ego says I need to go to the best programs and win a national title at them in order to validate who I am as a coach. So those are two different people. And again, when you're looking for a coach, or we want a coach to come to Nebraska, it's going to be about who fits into our environment and who fits into our program, as much as it's going to be, is this the winningest coach ever? And I think that's one thing that we need to take away from this search, is that realizing that Trev Alberts' timeline is not our timeline, and really realizing that Trev Alberts is going to do the best job he can to find the coach that fits best into our environment and can win games. Because if he doesn't win games, we'll never mention his name again.
Well, let's talk about another school's coaching situation. Doomsday Diesel. That's just fun to say. See, alliteration. Heinrich Haarberg, Doomsday Diesel. He's bringing some good stuff. Why did Wisconsin fire their head coach if they haven't changed any of their plays since? Mickey Joseph said they look the same as before. Well, Mr. Diesel, I can't answer that question.
You can't?
No.
I think if you talk to Wisconsin people, they were coming apart. They weren't coming apart like they were with us. But for Paul Chryst, I mean, before the season started, one of the Wisconsin guys I know said, I feel like there's something going to happen this season where Wisconsin needs to be really good or Paul Chryst has to be fired. And I think almost all of the Wisconsin people I talked to were like, Paul Chryst is going to be fired this year unless we're really, really good. And they all knew it was coming. They just didn't think it would happen in mid-season. So why did they fire their head coach? Because they weren't going in a direction that the athletic director needed them to go. And I think if you talk to, again, Wisconsin people, they'll say that recruiting had completely come apart at the seams. Paul Chryst was really not that interested in doing a lot of recruiting, and things were coming apart. So changed any of their plays since, once you're into a season, you don't really you can't really change a lot of your offense, I don't think. Because you've taught this, and suddenly you can't just go, oh, by the way, we're revamping and going under center, or we're going to run the gun now, or we're going to do something. You just can't do that in the middle of a season. So, and let's face it, Wisconsin has been running the same offense since Barry Alvarez was there. Except for that one championship game where they ran shit tons of jet sweeps and destroyed some team. Other than that, they've pretty much been running the same damned offense. So,
yeah, that was painful. Yeah, and Dondre and Beetle B both kind of saying the same thing here. Beetle B says Wisconsin getting ahead of it, and Don says Wisconsin nipping the problem in the butt. They weren't letting a problem persist, And then, and Friedrich says, Wisconsin's going down in Lincoln. Mark my words, go Big Red.
It'd be nice. We could use a win.
We need a dub.
I'd like to do a post-game reaction with a win.
One piggybacks on that. Let's say Nebraska beats Wisconsin Iowa soundly. Would the Mickey talk buzz again? We can all say, see, he was down as starting quarterback. That's what's holding him back.
Yeah, of course we will, because we feel good about things, and then we feel good about Mickey because he won games, and that's how we do things. So, yeah, and again, we don't have any information about a coaching search or what's happening with people. So that absence of information, we fill that void with our own made-up information or speculation. So, yeah, everybody would be, yeah, Mickey. I can see that. If we get to a bowl game, people are going to be like, "Yeah, we should hire Mickey," even though he's really, honestly, not a very good choice because of the lack of experience. Okay, Jose says, "Is it me or Greg's audio choppy?" We've been working with our service provider to try to figure out the audio issues and figure out our what's going on with the platform and stuff like that. So if we're still having experience, if you're still experiencing that, we are working on it to get it better. And I apologize. Greg apologizes too.
No, it's yeah, Jose, it's luckily I've got a terrific, dare I say, mentor who's walking me through a lot of my technical deficiencies. This, this guy right here, and we had about an hour and a half communication a couple days ago, trying to figure out the problems. And the problem is my laptop's not terribly slow, but it only is working on a 2.5 gigahertz speed, and apparently it could go 5G.
Yeah,
So
we need to get it connecting 5 gigahertz and
all the
eliminate
gigahertz.
channel interference.
I have no other channels operating. Patrick Earhart says John needs to braid his hair. Did you do that?
You know what?
Like
You know
Willie
what?
Nelson style?
I
Like one
don't
down
know
each
how to
side?
braid my hair. I don't know how to braid my hair, Patrick. So you have to come to my house and braid it for me. Oh God.
I know for a fact of a daughter, and miscoordination could braid your hair Willie Nelson style, get you a red bandana across.
He already took
I'll
that,
be
and
so-
I don't smoke marijuana, so I could probably learn how to sing "Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain" though, and then it would terrify people.
What about a little Merle Haggard? We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee.
Hey, we.
So, all right. Well, let's get to it. It's time. We're
What are we getting to?
predictions.
Okay.
All right, real quick here from Brian. The one thing we probably don't find out is who told Trev no as he goes through his progressions. You're right. Depends how Mickey falls in as far as head coach. Rule could make him recruiting coordinator, assistant head coach, etc. Yeah, we won't know. But
I would like to point out something. Do you remember when Lincoln Riley announced he was going to USC?
yes,
Nobody knew about that ahead of time. Nobody knew about that at all. And it
That's
just
true.
happened. It just all of a sudden Lincoln Riley was going to USC and the Oklahoma fan base went insane. But that is an example of what happens when you keep a coach search completely quiet in terms of who knows what's going on and who doesn't. So I'm not saying we're going to suddenly show up with, I don't know, Nick Saban or something, but you know, we don't know, and I'm sure it'll be a surprise to everybody when it finally happens. And it'll be fun. It will be fun because you'll just say this is fun.
Phil appreciates what I posted here on the video. Jose says if John gets ponytails, I'd subscribe to his Only Corns.
That is just that is a
That's
bizarre comment.
And then
It's kind of terrifying.
last pre-prediction comment here is from Owen. Says, say we win out and do get a bowl game offer. Do we decline the bowl to get the new coaching staff moved in and running, or take the offer and resume the search afterwards? I would say that probably by the Big Ten championship, we would know. We may not know, but a decision would have been made if it's not been made already. So I don't know necessarily how much search we need to do. I think it would be nice for all the upheaval, everything else that these players have been through, if they could earn a trip to a bowl, to go to a bowl.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's I know at 5-7 it's a participation trophy at best, but you know it's going to give. There's something to be said to reward, because some of these, believe it or not, some of these players are on like Mickey Joseph's, even in an interim basis, he's their third head coach. Like, some of these players are Mike Riley players. Not many anymore. There's been quite a bit of roster turnover, certainly. But I think, for the ones who've stuck it out, who are, Huskers till they die, or whatever. I think it'd be nice, little bonus for them. So that'd be me. That'd be my way to approach it, Owen.
I think years ago I remember who was it? Bill McCartney at Colorado went to a bowl game and said, "I'm going to do a whole new offense and we're going to start working on it before the bowl game." They went into the bowl game and they were terrible with their new offense. But they started ahead of time. So if we do have a new coaching staff and they're available, I mean, we can go ahead and just start working on shit ahead of time. And I mean, Greg's right. These players have been through some kind of hell with their football program, and I think it would be a really nice reward for them to get a free vacation. It'd be cool. They deserve swag.
Yeah, for sure. Think of the ones who had their 2020 season shortened, and maybe some of them have earned or been given an extra year of eligibility because of it. We talk about like six-year seniors like Vokalek, etc. Just I'd say just let them have that one little nugget of positivity. All right, predictions. We want to know your predictions this Saturday, Nebraska and Wisconsin from Memorial Stadium in Lincoln. Put your scores in the chat. John, we will start with you, sir.
Well, with Casey Thompson playing, I'm going to say 28-20 Nebraska. Because really? I do think he adds. Yeah, I think he adds to the offense. I think we can just. Trey Palmer is fantastic with Casey Thompson at quarterback because somebody can actually give him the ball, and I think that opens up a whole different. If we're us and we cannot throw the ball, and we become one-dimensional, we might as well be no-dimensional, because if all they have to do is tee off against the run, then we can't do anything. So I'll go 28-20 Nebraska, just because I really want to speak it into action or speak it into reality. I don't know what other phrases to put there.
Yeah, I think that's speaking into reality. I think it's a good way to phrase it. So John, if you see more scores, I'm gonna try to read the ones we have. We've got Beetle B. The little on the negative side, 28-7 Wisconsin. Josh says 24-21 Huskers. Phil says he's going to be there and watching him freezing his ass off, and says Nebraska 24-20. Owen says 31-17 Huskers, always good. And Highlander says 24-27 Nebraska. Now, traditionally, we would like the higher number first. Otherwise, you make my heart sad. I appreciate that Owen is on board and knows how we operate around here. James says 27-17 Nebraska. Let's see, make sure I'm getting all these. If Casey stays healthy the last two games, we have a decent chance in each game. Portal of Wisdom, don't disagree. Terrible, just terrible, says 21-17 Wisconsin. Jose liking this one a little bit better, 17-13 Nebraska. And Owen's ready for the another round of Kool-Aid in that big red cup that only I carry. This Tractor Fire, by the way, it's a good brown ale. Just a hint of heat on the back for the smoky chipotle pepper. It's good. It's a throwback to a bygone era.
Is that referring to my drinking days or what?
No. Because even without alcohol, there's one thing I know. Even without alcohol, you're all smoky chipotle pepper. You're all fire, all heat. we'll get the Big O Cup here. Palmer and Washington due to abuse the secondary, 34-24 in Nebraska. And Phil, I don't know if I even want to read this one out. John, can you read this one out loud? I don't want to talk
Hopefully
about
the
coaches
new
tasting
cage Phil Spear says hopefully the new coach Kool-Aid tastes better.
So here's where we're at. Casey Thompson's back. He's going to be, I think, pretty motivated because whether he feels the pressure, and I'm not talking pressure of the defense from offensive line that lets more, never mind. I think he feels the pressure, the burden of being the guy, or maybe not feels it. I think he acknowledges. I think he welcomes it. What I've seen of Casey Thompson this year is that he's a gamer. Like, he's going to be out there. I think he's a fighter. He's a battler. Look, I said the same thing about Adrian Martinez, and that's not taking anything away from Adrian Martinez. He's a gamer. It's just under similar circumstances. He didn't have the right people around him. Casey Thompson's going to do some things this coming Saturday, and he's going to have a game. I think Anthony Grant is going to return to form, but he's got to be used right. And he's got to be used. Look, it's a Wisconsin defense that traditionally gives us fits, right? I mean, is too much of a rebound? Yeah, that's fine. I think the way there, it's going to be all about play call, and they're going to have to dial up some quick releases. Maybe that means that Trey Palmer's not going to be able to, run thirds downfield and then catch the biscuit in the basket, as I like to say. Although that would be nice. We're going to have to see Casey Thompson move out of the pocket, and have to see a defense clamp down and make Graham Mertz, prove that he can actually play quarterback. And he sucks. Graham Mertz sucks.
I hope he sucks in Lincoln. That's true. Yeah.
We've got. I like our secondary. I like guys like Malcolm Hartzog, Marquise Buford, and up until maybe a bad decision that was made, I was a big fan of. I don't want to dwell on it, but we all know the corner or the safety who caused some trouble this past weekend. I like Luke Reimers. I like, Houseman's a beast, and he's going to be a beast. I think we have enough playmakers on defense to stop the Badger playmakers on offense. It's going to come down to something. Look, I've seen a lot of one-score games. Joel just threw up another one. 28-21 Huskers. Nebraska's going to break 30 points this game. There's not a doubt in my mind. I'm going to say something crazy. I'm going to say 35-24.
Okay. That's
35-24 Huskers. We're going to finish. We're going to actually sustain and finish some drives.
If we manufacture points through a pick six or a blocked punt, there you go.
Is this really Mertz's first game in Lincoln?
That sounds about right. I mean, he's not that old yet.
I thought he'd been around forever.
No, it just seems like forever.
Well,
when you're in an abusive relationship, every day is a year.
And Phil, I am crazy. Sometimes I just stare at the camera and wait for John to acknowledge me, but he's too busy fighting with musk rats.
No, I am not doing that anymore.
John,
Graham Mertz is a junior.
Okay. John, do you know what the best adult dating site is?
Apparently, it's that one that keeps coming in here. I always wonder. Oh, I don't wonder. I know what's going on. I mean, these people create burner accounts everywhere, and they show up. You know, on YouTube. Okay.
So we'll see. It helps. So that's my prediction: 35-21. No, 35-24. I've already forgot. John, you said.
I think I said 28-20, didn't I?
Sure. Okay. All I know is that for most of us, we're predicting Nebraska to win. And hey, that right there proves John wrong. Because John said there's no hope.
Oh, wow.
And we're all hopeful.
Yeah, we are.
Because, and I always go back to Shawshank Redemption. Hope is a good
dangerous thing. Oh, is that what?
Hope is a good thing, perhaps the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Say Watanabe. For the founder and fearless leader and the dashingly dressed John Dam Johnston, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is the Five Heart Podcast. We remind each and every week that Five Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red!
And until he returns, I get to say, win the